the Shimchu Shechinte. We just had Yud Zayin B'Tammuz. Now we're in what's called the Bein Hametzarim, and in another 3 weeks exactly, we're going to be coming to Tisha B'Av. B'ezrat Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to already make these days into Yemei Sason V'Simcha, days of rejoicing and happiness, and we're going to investigate exactly what it's going to take to get there tonight. We have a lot of Torah to get to. Ein Mayim, Eile Torah. Everywhere where water is mentioned, it is a reference for Torah. And so let's jump on in. The water's fine. Ko'amar Hashem Sevakot Tzom HaRevi'i V'Tzom HaChamishi V'Tzom HaShevi'i V'Tzom HaAsiri Yeh lebeit Yehuda l'sason v'simcha l'moadim tovim v'amet v'ashalom ohavo. So says Hashem of Sivakot, of all the God of all the high things, the stars, everything. The fourth Psalm, the fifth Psalm, the fourth fast, the fifth fast, the seventh fast, and the 10th fast are going to be to Beit Yehuda, are going to be the house of Yehuda, for the Jews, rejoicing and simcha, and a holiday, a good holiday, and there'll be peace, and we're going to love them. B'ezrat Hashem, very close, very close. The Navi Zechariah tells us about this amazing thing. That we have some days that are so sad. The worst days in Jewish history, and we're going to see it's not just days of Jewish history that were in the past, up until our generation. Up until our generation, there's things that happened on Tisha B'Av that have been great, terrible things for the Jewish people. And so the Navi Zechariah says all these days are going to be turned into days of rejoicing, days of peace, days of they're going to be holidays. We're going to have a holiday on Yud Zayin B'Tammuz. We're going to have a holiday on Tisha B'Av, and these 3 weeks in the middle, instead of being called between the two bad events, we're going to call them Chol Moed. We're going to call them the days of holidays. And so we have to ask ourselves, what does it take? Why? What is the whole point of these holidays, of these fasts? They're supposed to be remembrances for the terrible things that happened, the fall of the Jewish people, the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. So how can we possibly think to switch these days to holidays? And why would I want to switch in the holidays? These are terrible days. And so for that we have to go into the language of the Rambam. That the Rambam says that these days are not just days of mourning. They're days to look inward, to look and investigate in yourself, to see what can I do better, and to do tshuva. The whole point of this, I'll read you guys the language of the Rambam. Sheyesh sham yamim shekol Yisrael mitanim behem. There's days that all of Israel is going to do fasts. Mipanei tzarot shiru behem. Because of all the bad things that happened on these days. Kadei le'orer halevavot, to awaken our hearts. Lefateach darkei tshuva, and to open up the ways of repentance. V'yeh zeh zikaron lama'aseinu hara'im, and we're going to remember our actions, our incorrect actions. U'ma'aseh avotenu, and also the actions of our fathers. Shaya kema'aseinu, that they did like we're continuing to do. Ata, now, Ad shegaram lehem velanu otan etzarot, that their actions caused to them and also to us these horrible, horrible things that happened and these horrible destructions. And that's why, if we're just going to look at the language here very quickly. The language of the Rambam is wonderful. The Rambam copied every word of the Rambam. Almost 99% of what's in the Rambam is directly from the Gemara, directly from the Mishnah. He doesn't change hardly anything. He takes the halacha as it is, pisuka, that it can be halacha the maaseh, and he just translates it to a very simple Hebrew and gives you that language, which means that you can look at the language of the Rambam and every letter you can learn from it. Unlike other writings that are even from his contemporaries, that you can, of course, be very particular about the language, but the Rambam, you can be especially particular until the last letter. And not just that, you can learn things from that. There's a story. This Shabbat is the Hilula of Rabbi Tzion Abba Shaul. Rabbi Tzion Abba Shaul was one of the biggest tzaddikim, the Rosh Yeshiva of Porat Yosef of the last generation. And his Hilula, his Hazkara, his yard site is on this coming Shabbat. Zechuto Yagen Aleinu. And there was a guy, he was a Safek Mamzer. And when you're a Safek Mamzer, it's the worst. Because you're sore to marry other Mamzerim, you're sore to marry also regular Jews. You're stuck in the middle, because you're not a regular Jew, and you're not a Mamzer. So you can't marry anyone, so you're totally stuck. And so, this guy was trying to get himself permitted so he would be a full Jew. And so he went to Rav Eliashiv, he went to some big other Gedolim of that time, and they all said, we're going to think about it. 6 months they were thinking about if we can permit him, if we can't permit him. They were really trying to find a way to permit him. He went to Rabbi Tzion Abba Shaul, asked him the question. As he asked him the question, Rabbi Tzion Abba Shaul says, Mutar, you can be a regular Jew, go be a regular Jew, marry whoever you want. Go ahead. He jumps, he's so excited. He says, Rav, I can't believe it took you within a few seconds you gave a pasak that I'm kasher, and that's amazing because Rav Eliashiv has been spending 6 months on this sugya. And so Rabbi Tzadashul got mad at him. He says, how could you ask me when you already asked Rav Eliashiv? He's Gadol Ador. How could you ask me? He was very, Rav bin Tzadashul was very kind of anava. And so what did he say? He said, I take back everything I said. You can't rely on me as pasak halacha. But go to Rav Eliashiv and tell him that I was little midayek. I was very particular on the language of the Rambam on this particular halacha. Show him the halacha. Tell him how I was particular about the language, and tell me and see if he can permit you according to that. And Rav Eliashiv got the language of Rabbi Tzion Abba Shaul, and he said, "Oh, you're mutar, you're kasher." And so as you can see, it was the Rabbi Tzion Abba Shaul, his diuk, his particularness in the language of the Rambam that was able to permit him. Rabbi Tzion Abba Shaul, there are some wonderful, amazing stories about him, that he once met the Baba Elazar, the son of the Baba Sali, Harav Elazar Abu Chatzera, and he once met him, and he was so, the Baba Elazar was very impressed by him. And he said, "What do you do? Where do you learn?" He says, "I learned at Porat Yosef." And so he thought he was just a regular Avrech. And so when Baba Elazar got to Porat Yosef, he said, "Oh, I met this Ben Tzion Abba Shaul. Where is he? He's one of your Avrachim." And they said, "One of our Avrachim, he's the Rosh Yeshiva here." So you can see it's Anava. He didn't say I'm the Rosh Yeshiva. He said, "Yeah, I learned at Porat Yosef." And one last quick story about Ben Tzion Abba Shaul, just because he's a massive figure in the last generation, and his Hilula, like I said, is tomorrow, is on Shabbat. And so Rabbi Tzion Abba Shaul, he would give these amazing shiurim, and he would be in the middle of the winter, and all the windows are open, and he's drinking a cup of coffee, with this much coffee in it, this much coffee grounds, and he's sweating, and he would end the shiur, and he would be absolutely wiped out. He was so deep in the Torah, and so learning Torah so much, and had such a connection with the Torah, and was working amal esek Torah. And when it was at to the point where he was passing out from being so tired, from giving a shiur. And there were many times that he was in a tekis, he was in an event where lots of big rabbanim were speaking, and the one Rav starts to talk, and he asks a kushia, and Rabbi Tzion Abba Shaul says the tirutz, and then there was a Rav, I think it was a Rav Fisher, he goes, Rega, you wait a moment. That's the tirutz he wanted to say at the end of the whole long shiur. The Rabbi Tzion already got to it at the beginning. So massive figure, Rabbi Tzion Abba Shaul, and we can see from him, Zuchuto Yagen Aleinu. We can see from him that the Rambam is one of those special works that everyone should be learning the Rambam, and it's whether they're learning halacha or any other part of the Torah. He's one of the only hachamim that wrote about the halachot of not just our days right now, when we don't have Beit HaMikdash, we don't have a Melech Yisrael, we don't have a lot, when we're missing a lot of things. He wrote all of the halachot. And so, Gam Zechuto Shel Rambam Yegen Aleinu, and so we're going to see from the language of the Rambam here something amazing. We're going to remember our bad actions. And also the actions of our fathers that are just like what we're doing. So what can we learn from this short passage? The Rambam says that our actions are bad. And our actions are the same as our fathers. And our fathers' actions are what caused all these bad destructions, the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, the exile from Eretz Yisrael, all these things that happened. And not just that they caused it for themselves and also for us, that we're also a part in this destruction, as we don't have a complete Judaism. Our Judaism is missing certain things. Most of the mitzvot in the Torah, we can't do them right now because we don't have Beit HaMikdash. We don't have a lot of the mitzvot that surround Eretz Yisrael and the center of Eretz Yisrael, Yerushalayim, Jerusalem, and Har HaBayit, and building the Beit HaMikdash, B'ezrat Hashem B'merav Yameinu. And so the Rambam says, what he's hinting at here is that our actions, our continued bad actions, are not just caused these destructions, but they're preventing them from being fixed. They're preventing everything from going back to how it was. And we have to take this time, as the Rambam says, to open our hearts and to go and investigate what we can do better and do tshuva. And so, what we want to talk about, what is tshuva? What is tshuva? Right now, tonight, we're about another 2.5 months until Rosh Hashanah. We have Av, Elul, and another few weeks. 2.5 months, we're on Rosh Hashanah. Yom Adin, we're getting judged. And so we have to take this time already, right now, to start thinking, okay, why did Kadosh Baruch Hu set it all up? That the days of our destruction are right before the days of our tshuva. He's going to show us, basically, how bad things can get when we don't do tshuva. How bad things can be when we don't go back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when we separate ourselves from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then we're going to go back, and if we can have the zuchut, have the merit to actually think about how much we're missing and how much we need to be close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because without Him we're absolutely nothing, and we're missing so much in our service of Him. And we're going to go back, and we're going to get back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu B'ezrat Hashem, and then we're going to be able to have full redemption and full tshuva on Elul, and then Rosh Hashanah, and we're gonna B'ezrat Hashem, we're gonna get there. And so that is what really the most important thing about these days are. Yud Zayin B'Tammuz that we just had. These next 3 weeks that we're about to have. Tisha B'Av, that's going to be in another 3 weeks. B'ezrat Hashem, it's already going to be a holiday because we're all going to do tshuva. And they are the most important days for tshuva. Why? Because the other 2 fasts that we have, Som Gedaliah, it's after Rosh Hashanah. So you can say, okay, that's good for, if I had a bad deen on me, Chas v'Shalom, on Rosh Hashanah, I can switch it. And Asara B'Tevet, the 10th of Tevet, is in the middle of the winter. It's kind of disconnected from everything. So of course it's a terrible thing that happened, but it's not in this series of days that are leading up to the days of Tshuva. Now, we have to ask a few questions. First of all, why are those days of Tshuva? Why are the days of Elul and the day of Rosh Hashanah? Why did the Kadosh Baruch Hu say Rosh Hashanah? Everyone's getting judged. Masechet Rosh Hashanah, there on Daf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph, Kadosh Baruch Hu says, Kol b'nei marom. Everyone is going to come by like they're counting sheep. One sheep goes in at a time, so you can count them. They all go into a thin little gate. Count them one at a time. How many sheep do I have? How many do I have to do for maaser, for tithing? And now I know, and so I can. That's how they counted sheep, and that's exactly what Kadosh Baruch Hu goes. One at a time. Everyone gets judged. The entire world, every person in the world, even things, even non-living things, everything's getting judged. What's their next year going to be like? And so why was this day? Because Adam Rishon was born on what day? He was born on the very end of Elul. on Kaftet Elul. He was born at the end of Elul, Kaftet Elul, and he was born first day. Kadosh Baruch Hu gives him life, and then he gives him, takes one of his ribs, gives him Chava, and then they sin, and then they're going to get judged. And how are they going to get judged? Kadosh Baruch Hu says, if you remember what I told you remember what I told you? Kadosh Baruch Hu says to him, you remember what I told you? I told you that if you eat from this tree, you're going to die. This is a death punishment. You cannot eat from this tree, it's a death punishment. And what did they do? They ate from it. The sin that we're dealing with until this day, that we're still trying to fix, until this day, the same sin of Adam HaRishon. And so he says, but you know what? I'm not going to kill you. You're going to get a much less punishment. And so, just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu had mercy on Adam HaRishon and did not give him the punishment that he deserved, also HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, at this time, I'm going to make this a sign. I'm going to judge the whole world at this time that I judged you. And then they're going to know that this is a time of forgiveness. This is a time of people getting punishment much less than what they deserve. And so it's a good sign for us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, yes, it's Yom Adin, it's the day of judgment. We have to be in fear and in reverence and in awe of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but also we can be rest assured that HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose this day because it's a time of mercy, it's a time of forgiveness. And so it's a very good sign for us. Now, if we're getting back to, so that's what we're leading up to. B'ezrat Hashem will get there. But before we get there, we're going to have, of course, these Hametzarim that we're already found in, tonight being the first night. And so what do we have to ask ourselves? What exactly happened on these dreadful days? Well, first we got to know Masechet Ta'anit. It says 5 things happened on Yud Zayin Tammuz. 5 things happened. The first thing that happened is Am Yisrael did the golden calf in the desert, and Moshe Rabbeinu came down from Har Sinai with the tablets in his hands, Luchot HaBrit, and he smashed them. The tablets were smashed. In addition to that, in the days of the kings, there was a idol that was set up in the Heichal, in the Beit HaMikdash itself. They set up an idol. Chas v'shalom. You imagine putting a cross up in the synagogue. How people would just go absolutely crazy. This is 100 times worse. This is Avodah Zarah in a very holy place. This is Avodah Zarah in the most holy place. And so this is something that was crazy. This was the first time that someone took a Sefer Torah and burnt the Sefer Torah, and an act of defiance to the Jewish people in trying to get it to machlokes if a Jew did it or a non-Jew. And so it's very, if it was an act of defiance or an act of trying to start a war with us. And in addition to that, we also have that on this day, that the what do we have? That this was the day that the Korban Tamid, the daily offering in the Beit HaMikdash, was stopped. That was stopped entirely. And the last thing, the most famous thing, that this was the day that the Babylonians, or really the Romans, broke into the city of Jerusalem, destroyed the walls of Jerusalem, and broke in. And in another 3 weeks, they would come to the Beit HaMikdash and they would light it on fire. Now, all of these things we're going to see are against a certain sin. I want to see that it's something that's connected to us until this day. And we're going to add in Tisha B'Av, while we're already talking about it, Tisha B'Av, as it was known, that on that day, both Beit HaMikdash, both Batei HaMikdash were destroyed in the first temple and the second temple. And also, that was the day that Beitar was destroyed. Beitar is a city in Israel. And it was where Bar Kokhba made his last stand against the Romans, and where he fell, and millions of Jews died. It was something that was very terrible. It was on par with the Holocaust in the amount of people that died, and this was the end of any chance of Jewish sovereignty in Eretz Yisrael until the Jews started returning, a little over 100 years ago, to Eretz Yisrael, coming back home. So this was a very difficult time. Now, we have to ask ourselves, Why these 5 things? And why these things that happened on Yud B'Tammuz, why these things happened on Tisha B'Av? And the other thing that we have to ask is, how long does it take to walk from Yafo, Shar Yafo, the Yafo gate, to get to the Kotel? How long?
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
7 minutes.
5 to 10 minutes. If a healthy walk, you can get there in 5 minutes. So how did it take the Romans 3 weeks? The Babylonians, they broke the walls on what day? On Tet B'Tammuz. So it took them a month. When us takes a 5-minute walk, it took them 3 weeks. Or it took them a month. So what happened? Well, you can say, first of all, the Jewish people, when they saw what was happening, they started fighting tooth and nail for every inch. For every inch, even people who were not soldiers, old people, women, children, everyone came out of their houses with whatever they could get their hands on, whether it was a skillet or a pitchfork or whatever, and they started to defend with their flesh and blood the temple in Yerushalayim. And you see how much is missing for us. You see how much the temple, our fathers fought for this with everything they could get their hands on. Women, children, everyone, elderly people, everyone fought for this temple. And we see how important to us, and we need to take this as a great lesson of how much it's missing for us. That the people who lived in that time were willing to give up everything, their lives, to fight for it. And we don't even know what we're missing. Even someone who understands a little bit about Judaism and knows that it's okay, we don't have all the mitzvot, okay. We don't understand the full gravity of what we're missing. But why couldn't the Romans just walk right up? You have a bunch of women and children, elderly people, soldiers that have been in a siege for already a few months. For a year and a half they were under siege before they broke into the wall. And so how could it be that it took them so long to get there? A 5-minute walk for us took them 3 weeks. What happened? Kadosh Baruch Hu never does anything without giving a second chance. He said, Am Yisrael, my children, look where you guys are. You guys are on the brink of destruction. I'm about to burn my house down because of your sins. Do tshuva. You have 3 weeks to do tshuva. Someone who walks, it takes them 5 minutes to get from Yishar Yafo to the Kotel. For them it took 3 weeks. You have 3 weeks to do tshuva. You have 3 weeks to go back to our Father in heaven. And the Am didn't do what they needed to do. Am Yisrael didn't do tshuva. They fought. But they didn't fight in their hearts. They didn't fight the real war. Like the Chovot says, the real war is in our hearts. The real war is against the Yetzer Hara. You can think that we're fighting in Lebanon, we're fighting in Gaza. The real war is in our hearts. If all of Israel did tshuva, there wouldn't be any war in Gaza, there wouldn't be any war in Lebanon, there wouldn't be any war in Iran. There wouldn't be any wars at all. Kadosh Baruch Hu would just take care of business for us. There was a story that there was supposed to be a war with Lebanon. And they were getting ready to attack. And what happened? All of a sudden, the Lebanese civil war broke out. And the war wasn't in Lebanon, it wasn't with Lebanon, the war was in Lebanon amongst the Lebanese. So what happened? The Baba Sali said, it's because the Rebbe Melevavitch, the Chabad Rebbe, started passing out. Instead of being here in Am Yisrael, in Eretz Yisrael, they were fighting there. And so, what do we see from that? Now we just do tshuva. Kadosh Baruch Hu does all the fighting for us. Look where we are right now. Iran is more strong now than they were before the war. They have better terms and better relationships with the war, with the world, with America, with Trump, than they did before the war. What happened? We didn't do tshuva. We didn't do tshuva. We told Trump, oh, come Trump, help us. Okay, great. I don't think Trump's a bad guy, but he's not a Kodesh Baruch Hu. He's not a Kodesh Baruch Hu. We should have said, Kodesh Baruch Hu, come help us. Kodesh Baruch Hu, we're going to do tshuva. Kodesh Baruch Hu, we're going to start keeping the Shabbat. Kodesh Baruch Hu, we're going to start doing Shemirat Abid, Shemirat Einayim, guarding our eyes and guarding our breed. We're going to start doing taharat mishpacha, we're going to do family purity, we're going to do all these things. Take care of business in Iran, and I can guarantee you it would be a lot different situation. We wouldn't be now contending with Iran that's much stronger than they were before the war. We wouldn't be contending with enemies on all our borders. All our enemies that were on our borders before are now there, and now they're getting stronger than they've ever been. Why? Because we didn't do tshuva. Kadosh Baruch Hu shook us and he said, do tshuva. Shook us! Do tshuva! And we didn't do tshuva, and now look where we are. We're in a worse situation than we were 2 years ago. And chas v'shalom, that it's going to be something like what happened 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago now. And so we really need to take this time, Rabotai, this is a time we need to really take this time to wake up and do tshuva. And like we said, this time is we're getting in to get ready for Yamim Noraim. We're leading up to Rosh Hashanah. We're leading up to Yom Kippurim, and so now we're going to take a time early to do tshuva. But in addition to that, you also have time to get kapara. You have time to get forgiven, not just to do repentance, but to get forgiven. So what do I mean by that? Right now, if someone who is sad about the Beit HaMikdash and he does tshuva, that's already going to be forgiveness for him. If he did a fast today on Yud Zayin B'Tammuz and he did tshuva, and he's going to do another fast on Yom Kippur, it's an even longer fast, and he already did tshuva, that's also going to be for him a big zechut. It's also going to be for him more kapara. Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to look at the list of avonot that he has and starts erasing them even before he gets to Yom Adin, even before he gets to the Day of Judgment on Rosh Hashanah. And so he's going to already have a very high level, B'ezrat Hashem, before he even gets to the judgment. And in addition to that, you have more time to do different mitzvot. You also have time to do mitzvot. B'ezrat Baruch Hashem, we have published an amazing thing called Uva L'Tzion Goel, amazing booklet that talks all about tshuva in these days, and it brings a whole list of things, 13 things that a person can do that will help him get forgiveness from Kodesh Baruch Hu. And some of them are very simple. Some are very simple things that a person can do. Every Jew can do with very little effort, and he might be already doing that. If he just has kavanah to do tshuva, then it's going to be also for him kapara. And the last thing I want to talk about tonight is what tshuva everyone can do. Now, I hope that people who hear this shiur are from all walks of life. I hope there's religious people and non-religious people. B'ezrat Hashem, everyone's going to do tshuva together. And so, there's some things that I think are connected to everyone. Now, this isn't in the list, but I think it goes without saying. Like we already said, keeping the Shabbat, keeping the brit, not spilling seed, keeping the eyes, protecting the eyes, not looking at unmodest women, not looking at smartphones. If you have a smartphone, destroying it. You don't need a smartphone. I can guarantee you, I destroyed my smartphone, I don't need it. I've lived happily ever after. You don't have women jumping up on the phone anymore. Destroy your smartphone. And keeping taharat mishpacha, someone who's already married, doing taharat mishpacha. And anyone who wants to learn these halachot, these are halachot that are very easy to learn, B'ezrat Hashem. I can direct people to correct resources or help them in whatever they need, B'ezrat Hashem. But there's things that I think are connected also to non-religious people, also to religious people, also to people who keep Shabbat and keep their brit and keep taharat mishpacha and keep their eyes. There's things that everyone can do. Myself included. I'm not coming to exclude myself and tell everyone what I think they should do, and I'm not talking. This is something that I thought about for myself first and foremost. And they're all connected to the events that happen in these days. Now, what are we talking about? First of all, we have the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash on Tisha B'Av, which happened because of what? Sinat Chinam, senseless hatred. It's written there in Mesachik Gittin on the 55th page. There, on the back side, on the second side, you can check there. There's a whole story of Kamsa Bar Kamsa, story of senseless hatred to a Jew that hates another Jew for no reason at all. And so I say, if you don't like someone because you don't like what he believes about the draft laws in Israel, or you don't agree with him on what he agrees with with whatever disagreement, if he's a Democrat or Republican, or if you don't agree with him, he's Sephardi, he's Ashkenazi, he's Taimani, he's Ethiopi. These are all stupid things to hate someone for. If you hate someone for that, you're doing an Aveirah, you're doing a sin. And when you do that, you're not just causing separation between two people, or two groups of people, you're also creating separation between Am Yisrael and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You can say, I don't agree with you, but you know what, you're a Jew, I love you. I don't think like you and I don't look like you, but you're a Jew and I love you. We're all the sons of Abraham, Yitzchak and Yaakov. We're all learning the same Torah, the same Gemara, the same halachot. I have, Baruch Hashem, I have an amazing Ashkenazi Chavruta. We learn together, also Ashkenazi poskim, and also Sephardi poskim. We learn together Kaf Chaim. So Baruch Hashem, that you can. We're learning the same Torah, and you can take things from every side. The Mishnah in Masechet Avot says, who is someone who's a Talmid Chacham, who has wisdom, who is a wise person, someone who can learn something from every person. And so it's a stupid thing to hate someone because of what he thinks or how he looks like, and unless he's a Rasha, completely Rasha, or Kofer, he denies the Torah, there's no reason to hate him. And even that, you shouldn't hate him. I'll tell you why. Because the Mishnah says in Avot, Le'ehov et habriot, to love the creation, Lekaravam the Torah. You have to love him because he's your brother. And you have to be sad that he's not keeping the Torah. And you have to try to do your best to bring him back to the Torah, bring him back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because you know that's what's going to be best for him. Don't hate him, love him. Show him your love and bring him back to Torah. Why do I want to do Kiruv? Why do I want to help Jews find HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Because I love them and I know this is going to be good for them. And I love HaKadosh Baruch Hu and I want to create peace between them and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's all I'm here doing. Now the next thing that we're going to be seeing that happened was what happened on Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, like we said, that the walls were breached. They pirtzu, the Romanim pirtzu, nifratzu into the walls. And so what can we say about that? We have to be mitchazek and sniut in modesty. Whether it's how I dress, whether it's how I talk, whether it's how I act, I don't yell, scream, throw, do anything like that. To get better, be more modest and be more humble, to lower my head, to be more humble, and also to be shemirat einayim. We can also put this in here. Even if women are not dressed modestly around us, we have to not look at them and keep our eyes. And so that is something that's important for us to do. Now, what else can we do? On this day, Moshe Rabbeinu came down from Har Sinai and destroyed the Luchot HaBrit. The Luchot HaBrit had all of the Torah built into them. Everyone thinks it's just the 10 Commandments, right? All of the Torah was built into it. And not just the Torah Shebichtav, Torah Shebal Pei. Everything that anyone ever wrote was built into the Luchot, was built into the tablets. And so when Moshe Rabbeinu broke them, it was a terrible tragedy for who? For the Torah. First and foremost, for the Torah. And so what everyone can do is to get stronger in learning Torah. Everyone can learn a little bit more Torah. And everyone can improve the value of their Torah, make their Torah more valuable. Push themselves a little harder. If they're learning Mishnayot, start learning Gemara. If you're learning Gemara, start learning more Mefarshim, Rashi, Tosafot. Rashba, start to spread out and learn in more quantity and quality of your learning. And if you're learning one hour a day, try to learn 2 hours. If you're learning 2 hours, learn 3 hours. Try to add a little bit of time to your Torah learning. The next thing that happened on this day of Zayin B'Tammuz was the Tamid, the Korban Tamid, the daily offering in the Beit HaMikdash was cancelled. It was the first day since they built a Mikdash that there wasn't a Tamid. The word Tamid in Hebrew means continuous, means to always be happening. And so this was the first time it stopped since they built the Beit HaMikdash. And so what do we have to say from that? What do we have today? We don't have korbanot, so what do we have instead of korbanot today? We have tefillah. That everyone takes time to improve their tefillah, to make their tefillah more quality, to pray with a minyan, to pray b'kavanah, to understand what you're reading. If you don't understand Hebrew, take the time to translate out all the tefillah. And there's even translations, even interlinear translations, that make it very easy to know exactly what you're saying, understand what you're saying. and to have intention, correct intention when you're saying it. And to not miss Sof Siman Kriyat Shema. Sof Siman Kriyat Shema. The last time you can say Kriyat Shema, the last time you can pray. No one should be going over that time. Even if you wake up at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, you can still make it. Okay? If you're sleeping till 9 o'clock and there wasn't some, you weren't up all night learning Torah, or you weren't out at a wedding doing a mitzvah, wedding that had proper separation and everything, then there's no reason to wake up this late. You shouldn't be missing Kriyat Shema on time. The next thing that happened is that we have that the Sefer Torah was burnt. They burnt the Sefer Torah. And so on that we have to say, to save the Sefer Torah from being burnt, we already said to improve our own Torah learning, but now to help others learn Torah. Whether that's donating money, we're to do the best to stay away from our inner desires that are ultimately taking us away from Kadosh Baruch Hu. And whether it's something that's a sore, looking at women, chasing after women, eating things that are not a sore, sleeping in too late, not learning Torah, going to watch soccer games in the World Cup or whatever shtuyot it may be, staying away from those things as much as possible. And of course, filling our time with good things. Now the next thing that happened, that we talked about, is Beitar. What happened in Beitar was that there was a siege on the city of Beitar. Bar Kokhba was there, and what happened? There was one old man learning Torah. One of our big rabbis was there learning Torah, and his zechut of learning Torah, the merits from his learning Torah, was keeping the whole city alive. And one kuti, someone who was not a Jew, came in and he told the Romans, and he said, "You know why you guys aren't successful in conquering the city? What you guys are the Romans, you guys should have conquered this city months ago. It's because the Torah is protecting them. The Torah protects them. And so you have to stop the Torah learning that's happening there." He says, "Oh, really? How do I stop the Torah learning that's happening there?" He says, "You know what? Do this. I'm going to go in. I'm going to whisper in the guy's ear who's learning Torah. I'm going to tell him nothing. I'll tell him nothing. But they're going to see me. I'm going to come out and talk to you guys. They're going to see that I'm a spy. They're going to think he's a spy. And then they're going to kill him. And then the whole city's going to fall in a matter of days." And that's exactly what happened. He came in, whispered in his ear like this. And the guy was like, "Just get away from here. What are you bothering me? I'm trying to learn the middle of Subiya." And so everyone saw him and says, "Oh, that Kuti was here. And he went out and talked to the Romans right after he talked to this guy." Killed him. They killed him, and in a matter of days, the city fell, and hundreds of thousands of Jews were murdered. And so, what do we have to stay away from this? This is all Lashon Hara. This is all lying. This is all telling things about people that are not true. And so, we really need to be very careful about all these things. And the last thing that happened on Yud Zayin B'Tammuz that we didn't mention yet is that it was decreed on our fathers that they would not go into Eretz Yisrael. In the sin of the Meraglim, of the spies, the 12 spies that went into Eretz Yisrael to scout it out, and they came back and they said, "Uy, Eretz Ochelet Yoshvea, this is not a good place to be. We should go back to Egypt. We should stay in the Midbar. We definitely shouldn't go to Eretz Yisrael." As we explained, we had a shiur on it. And so, that's also Lashon Hara. In Beitar, it was a lie. In the Meraglim, there were things that they said were true. They didn't actually lie. They said, "Yeah, there's big armies there. There were big armies there. If we trust in Kadosh Baruch Hu, we can destroy any army we want. We can destroy the American army and the Persian and the Iranian army together." And that's what Chazal says is going to happen. That the Persians and the Romans are going to team up and come on us. Who's Rome today? That's the Americans. And who's Persia? That's the Iranians. They're going to team up and then come down on us, chas v'shalom. And so, if we trust in the Kadosh Baruch Hu, we can defeat all of them. And so, they told the truth, but it was from Lashon Hara. They told the truth in a way that made it sound very bad. So what do we need to take away from this? All of these sins are something that everyone needs to work on. Whether they're religious, not religious, there's something that everyone can work on, myself included. And in addition to that, we're able to get in this time closer to Kadosh Baruch Hu. We can feel our separation from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because we don't have the Beit HaMikdash. Our worship of Hashem is not complete without the Beit HaMikdash, and we're really missing deep connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we can feel that specifically in these coming weeks. And we can take these coming weeks to get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to do tshuva, and Bezrat Hashem, by the time we get to Elul, the time of when we're supposed to really kick in the high gear of doing tshuva, we're already going to be doing tshuva or have done tshuva, and by the time we come to Rosh Hashanah, there's nothing to judge us for, Bezrat Hashem. We're already going to be completely clean of sins, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is just going to forgive all of Am Yisrael of all their sins, and He's going to send us Mashiach Tzidkenu, and He will build Beit HaMikdash, and this is going to be the last time we have Yud Zayin B'Tammuz. And Bezrat Hashem, Tisha B'Av is already going to be a day of, is already going to be a holiday. Yud Zayin, Tisha B'Av is already not going to even be going to be a fast. But today was the last Yud Zayin B'Tammuz. That was a fast. Next year it's already a holiday, Bezrat Hashem. And so Bezrat Hashem, we're going to do all of this, and we're going to build Beit HaMikdash and do Tshuva Shalema, and that's going to be the end of these days. And we're going to do, like the Prophet Zechariah said, turn these days into days of rejoicing, days of happiness, holidays. Bezrat Hashem, Amen v'Amen.